Hi there. I got an overwhelming response from you to cover the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard defamation lawsuit starting on Monday. So, here we go. We're going down the rabbit hole. And for those of you who aren't into Hollywood, let me just tell you, this is very interesting on many perspectives, including legally. So we're going to look at the law because you know me. We're going to look at the lawsuit. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to walk you through some areas of the law. We're also going to find out why is Johnny Depp suing Amber Heard for $50 million plus punitives in a defamation lawsuit in Virginia. And we're going to talk about why is Amber Heard suing Johnny Depp. Actually, I'm going to cover that in the next video because that's a whole nother story. And we're going to talk about, is this a case about Johnny Depp clearing his name, or is it about Amber Heard trying to stop the abuse? And I have to use my notes because it's Friday and I've gone down the rabbit hole here. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about what defamation is and what it's not. I'm going to talk to you about possible defenses, why the case is in Virginia, and some interesting items regarding who's on the witness list. Elon Musk, James Franco, Paul Bettany, Ellen Barkin, 4 LAPD police officers, executives from Disney, Warner Brothers, etc. And I'm going to talk to you about some interesting things about the jury in Virginia, about verdicts in Virginia, and I'm going to end it with giving you 5 reasons why I think this is going to be a tough case for Johnny Depp. Hi there, I'm Michele Hagan. I'm a legal analyst and a former prosecutor. You may recognize me because I've provided a lot of legal analysis on the Elizabeth Holmes case. And I want to give you a couple disclaimers here. Number 1, this is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a Virginia lawyer. We're just going to be looking at this. I'm a California lawyer. And just to let you know that I prosecuted a lot of domestic violence cases, okay? So that's why we're going to be looking at the law. And I want to know what your analysis is. And I want to thank you for supporting my work by subscribing. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. Please hit the like button, the notification bell, and do subscribe. And do leave a comment because I want to know what your analysis is. All right, so we're going to look at the actual lawsuit. We're going to look at some law. We're going to look at that Washington Post op-ed that Amber Heard wrote, which is the basis of this defamation lawsuit, okay? And I'm going to read it to you because I know many of you listen to me while you're working, which I think is great. So let me give you a little background in case you popped onto this channel and you don't know who Johnny Depp is. So Johnny Depp and Amber Heard are both actors, okay? And they were married. I'll get to that in a second. But Johnny Depp, you might remember, he's Pirates of the Caribbean, Edward Scissorhand, what else? I think he was in Fantastic Beasts, and actually I think that had to relate to a libel lawsuit that Johnny Depp brought against Rupert Murdoch's Sun newspaper in the UK, which he lost. Johnny Depp lost. We'll talk about that too. And I have to look at my notes. And Amber Heard, she's an actress, and you may remember her from the movies are Aquaman and Justice League. And they were married for approximately 15 months in 2015 to 2016. And after the marriage, Amber Heard allegedly made numerous allegations saying that Johnny Depp was an abuser, was basically an abatterer, right? Domestic violence abuser. So she wrote an article in 2018 that was published in the Washington Post in December of 2018. And that op-ed, which I will show you, is the basis for the defamation lawsuit. Okay, so, this case is about whether or not Amber Heard made a false statement saying that Johnny Depp was an abuser. Okay, and whether or not that article shows that article is an allegation against Johnny Depp, that he is an abuser, and therefore it's defamation. It's a false statement regarding Johnny Depp, and he is suing for that because of damage to his career, losing out on movie roles. I gotta look at my notes here. And he's saying, that op-ed piece was an elaborate hoax by Amber Heard for publicity because 3 days after the Washington Post article was published, her movie Aquaman premiered in some of the, in all over across the United States, including the state of Virginia. 4 days after that op-ed came out, Johnny Depp was dumped from Disney. He was no longer invited to, to take the roles in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. So in 2019, Johnny Depp filed this $50 million and punitives defamation lawsuit against Amber Heard in Virginia. Amber Heard has filed a cross-suit or a cross-claim suing Johnny for defamation, for computer crimes, otherwise known as harassment by computer, and by saying that her op-ed piece is protected speech under the First Amendment. So that's where it's going to get very interesting here. And she's suing him for $100 million and punitives. All right? And this Virginia jury is going to decide both of these causes of action. The defamation lawsuit that Johnny Depp has against Amber Heard, and the lawsuit that Amber Heard, the claims that she has against Johnny Depp. And it's a trial by jury. And I'll talk to you about the jury in Virginia. So let me give you an overview, first of all, just of the trial, okay? Oh, and by the way, it's going to be televised. So any of you YouTubers out there that have big channels, I might be available to do some commentary, some live commentary. And to the media, same offer to you. Just contact me and let me know, all right? And I might be able to do some live coverage on this channel. I'll have to see. All right, so I got a lot of work to do. So we'll see. All right, so the overview of the trial. This is a criminal cause of action. It's a criminal, not a criminal. It's a civil. See, it's Friday. I'm already screwing up. It's a civil lawsuit. Civil lawsuit. That means it's about money. It's about money. We're not talking about jail time or prison. Those are criminal cases. Also, what's different in a civil case is the burden of proof is different. It's less. It's lower than it is in a criminal case. In a criminal case, it's beyond reasonable doubt. Proof beyond reasonable doubt. In other words, get the ball basically almost close enough to the end zone. All right? In a civil case, we're talking about preponderance, or in Virginia, it's called the greater weight of evidence. Preponderance of evidence, which relates to, something around the 50-yard line. All right? And it's going to follow the same, it's a civil jury, civil trial. So we're going to have jury selection, and then they're going to start televising after jury selection. So we're going to have jury selection, then we're going to have opening statements, not opening arguments, opening statements, and the plaintiff is Johnny Depp, so his team goes first. They have the burden of proof. They're the ones suing Amber Heard, who's the defendant. So the plaintiff gives their opening first, then the defense gives their opening, then the plaintiff puts on their case. All right, so Johnny Depp's team will put on his case to show that those statements, that op-ed piece in the Washington Post written by Amber Heard was defamatory, was damaging, was false to Johnny Depp, to his career, his reputation, the public scorn, all of the things that he alleges. And by the way, this video is simply my opinion. So do leave a comment and let me know what your opinion is. All right, so moving on here. So, interesting thing about jury selection in Virginia. Again, I'm not a Virginia lawyer. I did my research, though. I am not a Virginia lawyer. I'm a California lawyer, okay? So we're going to distinguish a little bit here, right? So, in Virginia, they call up 13 prospective jurors, and they give each side, both the plaintiff's counsel, so Depp's side, Amber Heard's side, they give them each 3 empty challenges. Okay, first of all, they're going to do the bias round, right? So many of you who've been my loyal subscribers, thank you very much. You know when I talk about the bias elimination round, right? Which is what we saw in the Balwani case. And in all cases, because you want to eliminate any jurors that may have a bias, preconceived idea about having judgments, right? Because this is going to be and has been a high publicity case, especially now that it's going to be covered, televised, which I think is a good thing to have cameras in the courtroom with a few exceptions. But I think, I think it's good for us to make sure that the system is working properly. All right. So they call up 13 prospective jurors. They ask them questions related to bias or any prejudgments, and those jurors could be excused for cause. Then the attorneys on each side gets to ask those jurors questions, right? And they get to have 3, we call them preemptory challenges, where you can just excuse jurors for whatever reason. You don't have to state it, right? So each side gets rid of 3 and 3. So that's 6 total. So we called up 13. 13 minus 6, if I did my math right, it is Friday, is 7. So it's those 7 jurors that are going to make a decision. And guess what? It's a unanimous verdict that's required. Johnny Depp needs a unanimous verdict in his favor. So does Amber Heard, right? On her cross-complaint, on her counterclaims, rather. All right? So I will get into her counterclaims in the next video when I have some more coffee. And by the way, I probably should start a coffee fund at some point. But anyway, so those 7 jurors have to make a decision, a unanimous decision, and find in favor of Johnny Depp for him to win this lawsuit. They have to find that the statement was false, the op-ed, the allegations of abuse. Although we're going to read that op-ed and you're going to see. I'll let you analyze that op-ed. So the way it works in California, to distinguish from Virginia, is in California, we work with a panel of 12 jurors, whether it's criminal or civil. In criminal cases, it's unanimous verdict. Civil cases, you need to get 9, at least 9 of those 12. 9 of those 12 to find in favor of your client, right? So in Virginia, it's those 7, and they're going to have alternates, no doubt, they'll have alternates. But it's those 7 jurors in the box that basically make the decision. All right? So all 7, unanimous, have to decide in favor of Johnny Depp's claims and Amber Heard's claims. All right, so what's important about that to know is that you want to find, it's going to be critical. Who do they pick for this jury? And it's going to be tricky, right? Because it's high publicity. There's probably going to be a ton of cameras all over the place, right? That we saw in the Elizabeth Holmes case. So what's the strategy here? The strategy is you're going to want to have a jury that's going to be unified, right? If you need a unanimous, think unified. You want a cohesive group of jurors. After all, they're all strangers who come together, and it always blows my mind that strangers can make a decision, but they do. They come together, they look at the evidence, and again, their decision is based on the evidence that they hear in that courtroom in Virginia and the law that's presented to them. It's not about what they see on TV or what they read in a newspaper, they saw online, in social media. No, it's about the evidence that comes in. Speaking of which, in that UK libel suit against The Sun, a UK publication I think is owned by Rupert Murdoch. Johnny Depp sued them because in 2008, they published an article or a headline regarding the Fantastic Beast, the casting of Johnny Depp in the Fantastic Beast movie, and relating to Harry Potter, and they called Johnny Depp, or they wrote in there that Johnny Depp referred to him as a wife beater. So he sued for libel, right? Printed false defamation. And I'll talk to you about the difference of different kinds of defamations. All right, so regarding the verdict, all Amber Heard needs to defeat Johnny Depp's claims, she just needs one juror, right? Because if it's unanimous and she can get one, likewise, the same applies for Johnny Depp. All right, so again, the burden of proof is greater weight of evidence. It's not reasonable doubt. And there is a clear and convincing standard that comes in, which is a little bit higher than greater weight of evidence. And I'll show you that instruction too. All right, so what was interesting in the UK lawsuit, the UK libel lawsuit, where The Sun referred to Johnny Depp as a wife beater, the judge found in the UK that there was substantial truth to that statement. Substantial truth based on, I think, again, I took a quick run at this, so I hope this is correct, that the judge found that 12 of 14 allegations of domestic violence substantially true. So Amber Heard's attorneys tried to get the Johnny Depp's lawsuit in Virginia dismissed, but the Virginia judge said, nope, we're not, that judgment took place in the UK. It's a different system. There was different witnesses, and actually Amber Heard wasn't even a party to that lawsuit, right? So that's not going to be admitted. That's not admissible what a judge said in the UK, with all due respect, okay? So in this case, Johnny Depp, the plaintiff, has to prove each and every element by a greater weight of evidence or preponderance of evidence. And we're going to see how that turns out. Now, how long is the estimate for the trial? The trial is estimated to be 6 weeks of televised coverage. I'm sure it's going to be longer than that. And I'll tell you why. Because there's over 119 witnesses. There's 38 witnesses identified on the Johnny Depp's witness list. There's 81 witnesses identified on Amber Heard's witness list. That doesn't mean they're going to call all of them, but there's potentially 119 witnesses to hear from. And again, those witnesses include Elon Musk, James Franco, Paul Bettany, Ellen Markin, representatives from the ACLU, because Amber Heard became an ambassador for the ACLU on domestic violence, 4 LAPD officers, including some footage from a body cam relating to a domestic violence, and possibly some expert witnesses, I imagine. All right, so let's go ahead. I hope that isn't too much for you, and I hope you're finding this interesting, because you know me, I'm a law geek. So now let's get to the law. Let's look at what the actual court documents say. What is it that Johnny Depp alleges that Amber Heard did? Okay? Why is he suing her for $50 million and punitive damages? And why is she countersuing him for $100 million and punitives? All right, so I will show you the lawsuit. I'll walk you through it here. So here's the lawsuit. Now, this is a civil cause of action in Virginia. Circuit court relates to the trial court. And it was filed March 2019. Johnny C. Depp II It's John Christopher Depp II is the plaintiff. He's the one who has the burden of proof. He has to prove that Amber Heard defamed him and caused him damages, right? It's against Amber Heard, who's the defendant, civil cause of action. So the defamation action, and I'll get into what defamation is. The defamation action arises from an op-ed published in the Washington Post by actress Amber Heard. And I'm going to show you, and I actually will read you the op-ed. I'm going to scroll through this so you can take a look at it. In the op-ed, Ms. Heard purported to write from the perspective of a public figure representing domestic abuse and claimed that she felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out and who spoke up against sexual violence. Although she never identified him by name in the op-ed, the op-ed plainly was about Ms. Heard's purported victimization after she publicly accused her former husband, Johnny Depp, of domestic abuse in 2016, when she appeared in court with an apparently battered face and obtained a TRO, a temporary restraining order, against Mr. Depp on May 27, 2016. The op-ed depended on the central premise that Ms. Heard was a domestic abuse victim and that Mr. Depp perpetuated the domestic violence against her. Okay? So in the op-ed, she does not identify, she doesn't write his name, Johnny Depp, but his counsel, and he's alleging, Johnny Depp is alleging that it's plainly about him, and therefore he was damaged. Okay? Now, domestic violence is very, it's very traumatic, and it goes across all socioeconomic scales, can impact anybody. Being in a relationship where there's violence, right? Boyfriend, girlfriend, it's happening on college campuses, it's happening in marriages, it's happening between partners, and so this is what Johnny Depp is saying, no, I'm not the perpetrator, she is. Okay? And again, he has to prove that her statement, if the jury finds that this op-ed relates to Johnny Depp, and that's a whole nother story, he has to prove that these allegations are false. Now, he wasn't able to prove it in the UK, but that's a whole nother system, right? So, they say Mr. Depp never abused Ms. Heard in paragraph 3. It was an elaborate hoax to generate positive publicity for Ms. Heard and advance her career. With a prior arrest, Amber Heard was arrested before for domestic violence against her girlfriend. It was some situation that took place, I think it was the Seattle airport, where she grabbed her arm. Anyway, with a prior arrest for violent domestic abuse and having confessed under oath to a series of violent attacks on Mr. Depp. This is what they're saying. These are all allegations. This complaint is an allegation. It doesn't mean it's true. Okay? So, she confessed under an oath to a series of violent attacks on Mr. Depp. Ms. Heard is not a victim of domestic abuse. She is the perpetrator. Right? He's pointing the finger at her. She's pointing the finger at him. Allegedly, right? We don't know if this op-ed actually points the finger at Johnny Depp, but you're going to let me know what you think. So Ms. Heard, implication in her op-ed that Mr. Depp is a domestic abuser is not only demonstrably false, it is defamation per se, and I'll explain that to you. And it's damaged his reputation as a public figure. His reputation, his career, we're looking at paragraph 5. His reputation and career were devastated. The first accusation that she made back in 2016 was timed to coincide with the release of a movie Johnny Depp was doing. And at that time, in 2016, it was Alice Through the Looking Glass. Okay? So he alleges that he lost movie roles and he has faced public scorn because of those allegations that he says are false and they're a hoax. And they say that, and indeed, just 4 days after Ms. Heard wrote the op-ed in December 2018, Disney announced 4 days later, December 22nd, that it was dropping Mr. Depp from his leading role as Captain Jack Sparrow in the multi-billion-dollar Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Yeah, that would be devastating to anyone's career. Devastating. Okay, I'll scroll through this. You can read through it. And then they claim that Ms. Heard revived her false allegations against Mr. Depp in the op-ed. You know, the 2016 false allegations, according to Mr. Depp, to generate positive publicity for herself to promote her new movie, Aquaman. Is this how they do press in Hollywood? Is this what they do? I don't know. Anyway, to promote her movie in Aquaman, she wrote this op-ed. And it was released 3 days before the op-ed. The movie role was released 3 days after the op-ed was published. Number 7, Mr. Depp brings the defamation action to clear his name. Is he clearing his name, or is she trying to stop the abuse? She's claiming this lawsuit is abusive. By this civil lawsuit, Mr. Depp seeks to restore his reputation and establish Ms. Heard's legal liability for continuing to campaign to push a false narrative that he committed domestic violence against her. And he wants compensatory, he wants to be compensated for his reputational harm, his lost jobs and everything else. And he's also claiming that she acted with malice. Therefore, he gets punitive damages. All right. So, why are we in Virginia when both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard live in California? And I'll get to that. You can read through this. They both live in California. The jurisdiction, because the op-ed was published in, I think it's the Springfield newspaper in Virginia, which I think is owned by Jeff Bezos. What a small world all this is. But anyway, because it was published in the Springfield, Virginia newspaper to promote her new movie in the Virginia theaters, that the venue that they have the opportunity to use, both parties have the opportunity to use the Virginia state to bring their action. So Johnny Depp filed this lawsuit in Virginia. So you can read through the facts here. He's claiming that she, in that op-ed, implies that she was a victim of domestic violence at the hands of Johnny Depp. They talk about the marriage only being 15 months. And here comes Elon Musk. Johnny Depp alleges that Elon Musk was having late night visits with Amber Heard while she was married to Johnny Depp and while he was out of town. So this 2016 incident relates to Johnny Depp throwing a phone at Amber Heard and her subsequently getting a restraining order and then getting separated and then the divorce. Now here, if you look at the bottom of page 5, they're talking about when Miss Heard allegedly threw a vodka bottle at Mr. Depp when they were in Australia and almost severed his finger. Okay, so you can go ahead and read through this. And then the marriage came to an end at the end of May 2016. Miss Heard lured Mr. Depp to the penthouse to pick up some items, and that's where they claim the false allegations against Mr. Depp by Miss Heard relating to having Johnny apparently throwing a cell phone at her, hitting her, and there being they claim multiple eyewitnesses to this hoax. And you can go and read through this. Johnny Depp apparently has several witnesses say there was no injury to Amber Heard. Now, again, you don't have to have injury for battery in California. I don't think so in Virginia either. But anyway, you can read through this. 6 days later, she goes and gets a restraining order. Then they talk about she withdrew the allegations and dismissed the restraining order because they were settling their divorce. And despite the dismissing of the restraining order, and withdrawing the domestic abuse, Ms. Heard has continuously and repeatedly referred to herself as a victim of domestic violence, as a survivor, with clear implications that Johnny Depp is the perpetrator. That's what they're alleging. That's what Johnny Depp is alleging. And then they talk about the op-ed that I'll show you. And then he's never identified by name. And here are the quotes. I'm going to read you instead of showing you these pieces, and you can go ahead and read this. It's the part I highlighted. I'm going to actually read you the whole Washington Post op-ed because I think you need to have the whole context, because that's what's going to be presented to the jury, not just these 4 quotes here, with all due respect to counsel. But anyway, so, the notion is that they're claiming that this whole op-ed is portraying her as a victim of domestic violence at the hands of Mr. Depp. And they're claiming she isn't. She's not the victim. She's the perpetrator. Right? That's what they say here. They're both public figures, which matters for defamation. I'll talk to you about that. And then here's relating to the prior arrest of Amber Heard regarding the domestic violence against her partner at that time, which was in 2009 at Seattle Airport, that she allegedly grabbed Miss Ray, hit her in the arm, yanked a necklace off her neck, etc. And they're saying the prosecution didn't file charges, declined because they were merely passing through Washington. Okay. You can go ahead and read all these paragraphs. Hopefully I'm going slow enough so you could read this. There's other allegations of being punched by Mr. Depp, he having to flee the penthouse. There are alleged allegations that there was damage to Mr. Depp's face. And then they also alleged that all these allegations by Amber Heard were just refuted conclusively by the police. That's where the 4 LAPD officers come in. Basically, they're basically going to testify there was no visible injuries, I think. But you can go ahead and read through this. And believe me, I prosecuted plenty of cases without visible injury and without victims, right? We don't ask victims to press charges. So, by the way, you can go look at my video I did on suggesting that Will Smith be prosecuted for slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars, and why they don't need Chris Rock to prosecute that case. So you can go ahead and look at that. There's a reason reason I proceeded. And domestic violence prosecutors across the country proceed without the help of the domestic violence victims, right? So whether the victims, whether the men or the women recant because of the whole cycle of violence, because of the intimidation, because of the threats of further violence, that's why I proceeded, and many prosecutors across the country still prosecute if you have the evidence to support the conviction, okay? So we don't ask victims to press charges. We don't ask victims to prosecute. It's the district attorney, it's the prosecutor who files charges and who presses charges. Okay, so enough of that. All right, so anyway, you can go ahead and read through this. It's more about the 2016. These are all the witnesses, the officers, Johnny Depp's officers that he's going to be calling the LAP to talk about what they saw regarding the cell phone incident in 2016, where Amber Heard allegedly had visible injuries or not. We'll find that out. Again, that that's part of showing, are these allegations false? So I'm just scrolling through so you can go ahead and read this. Of the potential witnesses that would testify. Okay, so we're almost getting there. And, you know, they talk about Mr. Romero, Mr. Harrell confirm to Miss Esperanza that Miss Heard did not have any injuries on her face. So that's what they're saying. That's what I guess Johnny Depp is going to be proving in this trial. There was no injuries. It's a hoax. She made this up. And they talk about this fake punch video. Apparently they have surveillance cameras that I guess Amber Heard or some of her relatives were practicing a fake punch. I don't know. We're going to find out about that, but you go ahead and read this. It's high drama, high drama. But anyway, the court is a different story. Evidence is a different story. What can be proved? We'll have to see. Ms. Heard acted with actual malice when she implied in her sexual violence op-ed, they're now referring to as a sexual violence op-ed, that she was a victim of domestic violence at the hands of Johnny Depp. You can go ahead and read through this. They're saying that she knew these allegations were false. And it was around the time of the Me Too movement starting up. And she was the first actress named as the human rights champion of the United Nations Human Rights Office. She was appointed ambassador on the women's rights of the American Civil Liberties Union and was hired by L'Oréal Paris as a global spokesperson. That's paragraph 65, which, by the way, she claims in her countersuit that she lost that L'Oréal job. So I'll talk about that in the next video. Anyway, Aquaman was her first leading role in a big budget studio film. And then you could read through this. His reputation, his career has suffered because of the false and defamatory op-ed written by Amber Heard. As a result, his reputation and career sustained immense damage, is what they're claiming. He lost movie roles. There were public outcries to filmmakers to recast his roles. He endured public scorn. This is paragraph 72. Public scorn for more than 2 years. And this is interesting. But he was weathering the storm and had a successful film release in 2019. That's interesting. Interesting allegation there when the op-ed was published in 2018. I wonder what they're going to do with that. The reaction to Ms. Heard's op-ed was swift and severe to Mr. Depp. Just 2 days after, Disney publicly announced that he would no longer be a part of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, etc. Okay, so then Johnny Depp sues her for basically makes 3 claims, and they're all defamation. One is that the op-ed being on printed edition, that's one claim. Being the op-ed on the online edition, that's the second claim. Third claim is the op-ed because she texted a link to the publication. And you can go ahead and read through this. Saying she caused harm, and here it is, paragraph 83, as a direct and proximate result of these false statements, which, by the way, I think this is one of my reasons as to why I think this is going to be a tough case. As a direct and proximate result of these false statements, Mr. Depp has suffered damages, injury to his reputation, harm to his ability to carry his profession, embarrassment, humiliation, emotional distress, all in the amount to be determined at trial. Her actions were malicious, willful, and wanton, and he wants punitive damages. He wants compensatory damage of not less than $50 million. He wants punitive damages not less than $350,000. He wants his attorney's fees, his costs, and other relief the court deems appropriate. Okay, here's count 2. It's basically the print edition. It's the same elements required, same damages. I'm just going to scroll through it. Then we're going to get to count 3. Same thing, same damages. It's just that related. It's still defamation. It's just that she tweeted a link to this op-ed. So that's their third cause of action. Their third and final cause of action. Okay, so I'll just one more page here. And plaintiff Johnny Depp hereby demands a jury trial on all issues so triable. Dated March 1st. Here's his counsel. And that's the end of the complaint. Okay, so now let me show you the op-ed, and you make the call. I'm going to read it too because I know many of my subscribers like to listen. So, here we go. Washington Post, dated December 19th, 2018. And hopefully you can see this, but I will go ahead and read it. It's titled A Transformative Moment for Women by Amber Heard. Okay, here we go. Here's what she said, and here's the basis of defamation. Is this defamatory towards Johnny Depp? Is it a false statement made by Amber Heard? Okay, transformative moment for women by Amber Heard. I was exposed to abuse at a very young age. I knew certain things early on without ever having to be told. I knew that men have power, physically, socially, and financially, and that a lot of institutions support that arrangement. I knew this long before I had words to articulate it, and I bet you learned it young too. Like many women, and by the way, it happens to men too, like many women, I have been harassed and sexually assaulted by the time I was of college age. But I kept quiet. I did not expect filing complaints to bring justice. And I didn't see myself as a victim. Then 2 years ago, she wrote this in 2018, then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse. And I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. Friends and advisors told me that I would never again work as an actress, that I would be blacklisted. A movie I was attached to recast my role. I had just shot a 2-year campaign as the face of a global fashion brand, and the company dropped me. Questions arose as to whether I would be able to keep my role of Mira in the movie Justice League and Aquaman. I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. Keep in mind, this is an opinion piece. I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. Imagine a powerful man as a ship like the Titanic. That ship is a huge enterprise. When it strikes an iceberg, there are a lot of people on board desperate to patch up holes, not because they believe in or even care about the ship, but because their own fates depend on the enterprise. In recent years, the Me Too movement has taught us about how power like this works, not just in Hollywood, but in all kinds of institutions, workplaces, places of worship, or simply in our particular communities. In every walk of life, women are confronting these men who are buoyed by social, economic, and cultural power, and these institutions are beginning to change. We are in a transformative political movement. The president of our country has been accused by more than a dozen women of sexual misconduct, including assault and harassment. Outrage over his statements and the behavior has energized female-led opposition. Me Too started a conversation about just how profoundly sexual violence affects women in every area of our lives. And last month, more women were elected to Congress than ever in our history, with a mandate to take women's issues seriously. Women's rage and determination to end sexual violence are turning into a political force. We have an opening now to bolster and build institutions protective of women. For starters, Congress can reauthorize and strengthen the Violence Against Women Act, first passed in 1994. The act is one of the most effective pieces of legislation enacted to fight domestic violence and sexual assault. It creates support systems for people who report abuse and provides funding for rape crisis centers, legal assistance programs, and other critical services. It improves responses by law enforcement, and it prohibits discrimination against LGBTQ survivors. Funding for the act expired in September and has only been temporarily extended. We should continue to fight sexual assault on college campuses, while simultaneously assisting on fair processes for adjudicating complaints. Last month, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos proposed changes to Title IX rules governing the treatment of sexual harassment and assault in schools. While some changes would make the process for handling complaints more fair, others would weaken protections for sexual assault survivors. For example, the new rules would require schools to investigate only the most extreme complaints, and then only when they are made to designated officials. Women on campuses already have trouble coming forward about sexual violence. Why would we allow institutions to scale back supports? I write this as a woman who had, here we go, I write this as a woman who had to change my phone number weekly because I was getting death threats. For months, I rarely left my apartment, and when I did, I was pursued by camera drones and photographers on foot, on motorcycles, and in their car. Tabloid outlets that posted pictures of me spun them in a negative light. I felt as though I was on trial to the court of public opinion, and my life and livelihood depended on a myriad judgments far beyond my control. I want to assure that women who come forward to talk about violence receive more support. We are electing representatives who know how deeply we care about these issues. We can work together to demand changes to laws and rules and social norms, and to right the imbalances that have shaped our lives. It's written by Amber Heard, December 19th, 2018. She's described as an actress and an ambassador on women's rights at the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union. Okay, so here it is, December 19, the Op-Ed, which is the basis. So, you can read it for yourself, but she doesn't name Johnny Depp. And this is, read by people all over the world, right? So if it's a false statement, so let's look at whether or not it's defamatory. So I took a peek at the jury instructions because you know me, I like to look at what the law says. So here's the jury instructions. And again, I'm not a Virginia lawyer, so I'm just going to show it to you for educational purposes only. Again, this is just my opinion. So there's two kinds of defamation, typically. There's libel and there's slander. And the way I remembered the difference in law school, and even to today, is speech, S. Speech is slander. Slander starts with an S, so that means it's speech. Libel is things in print. Okay, when you make statements that are false in print, statements that are false orally, that damage people's reputation, career, etc., and they're false, that's defamation. So let's see, what is the Florida law? This is the jury instructions, so this is what the judge will presumably read to the jury. before, after after closing arguments, before they go into deliberations. Or maybe the judge will read pre-instruct before opening statements. We'll see. So anyway, it says you use this for a case involving a public figure plaintiff, which Johnny Depp is a public figure. It's not some private person that, this is a person who's an actor, celebrity. People know him. Very famous, right? As well as Amber Heard. So it says, case involving a public figure where the court has determined that statement is defamatory per se. That's what Johnny Depp is claiming, that op-ed piece is defamatory per se, meaning defamatory on its face, okay? So you shall return your verdict for the plaintiff if Depp proves by greater weight of evidence that, one, the defendant made the following statement. Did Amber Heard write the article? Yes. And it was heard by someone other than the plaintiff? Yes. Presumably all the readers, right? And it was about the plaintiff. Ha. Is it about the plaintiff? That's going to be tricky, and the evidence, they're going to have to prove that. His name didn't appear in the op-ed piece. I have to say, to be honest, I read it and I didn't connect. Although, I'm not hip at all. I don't keep up with all this stuff. I don't know. You tell me. Did you make the connection? You be the jury. When you read that op-ed piece or when you listened to it, did that remind you of Johnny Depp? Did you automatically think he was the perpetrator? So, was it about Johnny Depp? And it was false. Okay, so the statement was false, meaning that she's not a domestic violence. He's not an abuser. If the plaintiff further proved by clear and convincing, so now it's a little bit higher than the 50-yard line, got to get a little bit farther down the field here, that the defendant, Amber Heard, knew the statement was false. So she had to know that it was a lie when she was writing that op-ed piece, or made it so recklessly as to amount to willful disregard for truth. That is, with a high degree of awareness that the statement was probably false. So either she knew it was false or she knew it was probably false. And this is the burden of proof, right? That Johnny Depp has to show the statement was false, or she knew it probably was false, and that the defendant abused her privilege to make that defamatory statement. And this is where it gets interesting. Okay, so let me show you. I'll read this to you. And it says to the jury, you shall find your verdict for the defendant if the plaintiff failed to prove any one of those elements. Johnny Depp has to prove. It was about him. She wrote it. It was false. It was she knew it was false or probably false, and she didn't have the privilege. There was no privilege. She abused her privilege to make this statement, to make this op-ed. And I'll talk to you about that in a second here. So let me scroll up. Okay, hang in there. We're almost done. Okay, so yeah, you can go ahead and read this. And the jury determines what the damages are. Okay, I'm looking for, sorry, I'm trying to find the privilege. Hang on. Oh, here it is. Okay. So this jury instruction, again, assuming I'm correct that this is the right jury instruction. See, what Amber Heard is, and she won recently a very favorable ruling, which again makes it even tougher for Johnny Depp, in my opinion. You can make a defamatory statement against someone where there's a limited privilege. And it says here, under certain circumstances, a person has a limited privilege to make a defamatory statement about another without being liable for the damages. Is it privileged because she, in this case, did Amber Heard have an interest or a duty in the subject? And did she make the statement to another person with a similar interest or duty? So the op-ed piece, she was talking about how we need to reform the laws, have more laws, to protect women and men, by the way, who are victims of domestic violence. all victims of domestic violence, right? She has an interest. She was an ambassador for the ACLU on domestic violence. She wrote this op-ed piece. Yes, I understand it was just days before Johnny Depp's movie, or days before Aquaman, her movie came out. Okay. So it says, would that op-ed have an interest to the readers? Basically, I think it would, right? I think it would. All of this information about domestic violence, about what's happening with Title IX, about the Violence Against Women Act, all the information that she put in that op-ed piece. And again, just my opinion, you tell me whether you think what they call it is a public concern. I'll call it a public concern defense. In other words, you can make a statement as long as you could be false, but if it's of public concern. Domestic violence, I think we can all agree, would be a public concern. And I know that Johnny Depp tried to get that defense, to keep this defense out, we'll call it to keep this privilege out, the public concern privilege, by saying it was an op-ed of a private nature, not a public concern, but a private nature. Well, the judge didn't buy it, right? This defense is coming in. So she's going to be able to argue, her counsel will be able to argue that even if you find that the op-ed was false, that she lied about Johnny Depp, assuming they tie that article to him, that, lied about Johnny Depp being a batterer, that she still has a privilege if she's talking about something of public interest. At least that's how I understand this. Okay, so I'll scroll through, you can read this. And then there's a part about that they could argue, his counsel could argue, so there's still possibility here, to defeat this privilege if Amber Heard asserts it. And it says the privilege is abused if the plaintiff, so again, Johnny Depp, proves by clear and convincing evidence that Amber Heard knew the statement was false, that op-ed piece was false, relating to Johnny Depp, or there was she was writing it for people who had no interest in the subject, which I don't think will work. But maybe it's under 5 here. The statement was made because of personal spite, hatred, ill will, or desire to hurt the plaintiff, independent of the occasion on which the communication was made. So Johnny Depp's counsel, I assume this is correct, can show that she made that statement out of personal spite, hatred, ill will, and desire, then the jury could find that she abused her privilege, and that the privilege is not a defense, does not make her immune to liability. Okay? So let's sum up here. So basically, what Amber Heard's counsel is, I assume, going to assert is that she has a privilege. Even if you find the op-ed piece related to Johnny Depp, even if you find that the allegations were false, she still has immunity because of this because she talked about public concern. And also there's a whole area of law, it's called the Anti-Slapp. And that stands for, I have to look at my notes because I don't memorize all this. It stands for the strategic, hang on a second here. The strategic participation. Yeah, it's the strategic lawsuit and public participation. It basically allows you, in the United States, your First Amendment rights to free speech. It protects whistleblowers. It protects, it's to prohibit people filing defamation lawsuits to silence people from speaking. It's to allow you to have your right of free speech, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, in the civil arena, people sue each other for defamation to silence them, to stop a whistleblower, to stop a victim from speaking up. Okay? But in California, you can, for instance, because Johnny is suing Amber of defamation in California, she would have been able to, assuming that the judge gave her the protection of her First Amendment right to speak up as of an alleged victim of domestic violence, that this case would have likely been dismissed in California in the pre-trial motions. But because Johnny Depp went to Virginia as the forum, and I think they did that is because their anti-Slapp law is not as clearly defined maybe, or as strict as California is, or maybe it's just the fact that they don't deal with it in the pre-trial, they deal with it in the trial phase. Okay, so Johnny Depp is accusing Amber Heard in that written op-ed Washington Post piece of defaming his reputation. And because of that, he lost jobs. He was kicked out of the Pirates of Caribbean movies, or Caribbean, however you say it. And he suffered public scorn, lost a lot of money, etc. All right? So, and she's going to say, no, it's true. I'm not the perpetrator, you are. And you're filing this lawsuit. It's just further abuse. You're trying to silence me. I'm going to stand up and fight back. Fight back. And sue you for $100 million in punitives. We're going to see what the jury does with this, right? It's up to the jury to decide. Okay, so let me give you my 5 reasons. Here's my analysis. Again, just my opinion, and it's my analysis. Why I think this is going to be a tough case. Tough case for Johnny Depp to prove that Amber Heard defamed him. Number 1, his name does not appear in that op-ed piece. And a jury is not allowed to speculate. The jury will be instructed, you're not allowed to speculate. How are they going to tie this to Johnny Depp? Based on allegations in 2016, that domestic violence? I don't know. We're going to find that out. His name doesn't appear. Number 2, the plaintiff, Johnny Depp, has to prove. He has to disprove those acts of violence. Disprove. So they'll bring on the LAPD officers and all the other people that worked in that building who didn't see any visible injuries on Amber Heard. Number 3, even if it's a false statement, even if the jury thinks it's defamatory, is she protected by the public concern privilege, I'll call it? Does it have a public interest or public concern? I think it does. But can they defeat that privilege by saying that she had spite and hatred towards Johnny Depp? And that has to be proven by a higher standard, clear and convincing. Get the ball past the 50-yard line. It's not going to be easy. His name isn't in the op-ed. He has to disprove the acts of violence, even if it's false, even if it's defamatory, a false statement. Can he defeat the privilege? Was it a statement made in hatred, spite, or was she just trying to rally support to be transformative, to get the laws changed regarding domestic violence? Here's my 4th reason, causation. Causation, and this is what trips up a lot of plaintiffs. This is where a lot of plaintiffs lose their lawsuits. Causation. They need to show that because of that op-ed, it's a direct and proximate result of that op-ed that Disney did not give Johnny Depp they dropped him from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Or could it have been something else? Was that the reason Disney dropped Johnny Depp, because of the op-ed? Or was it something else? Right? Is there other reasons why his reputation was damaged other than this op-ed piece? You see where I'm getting at? They have to directly relate it. The damages have to be directly related to that op-ed piece. Okay, number 5. My last reason. You got to get a unanimous verdict. Johnny Depp has to convince all 7 of those jurors. All 7 that she defamed him. And that she didn't have a privilege. and that the damages were caused by her statements. All 7. All Amber needs is one of those jurors who doesn't agree with the other jurors. Or all the jurors could find in favor of Amber Heard. And then her counterclaim, the jury's also going to be deciding whether did Johnny defame her. And I'll go through that in the next video. Okay, so we'll look at her complaint, her causes of action. And boy, they're a doozy. They're a doozy. The text that Johnny Depp allegedly sent to Paul Bettany, referring to Amber Heard in not such great light, talking, I'm looking for my notes here, saying things as, let's burn Amber in his text, F up her burnt corpse. There's a whole lot of very damaging text, assuming this comes in, that supports, Amber Heard's claim that she is a domestic violence survivor from abuse at the hands of Johnny Depp, and that this lawsuit, his defamation lawsuit, is yet another form of abuse. Okay, so you make the call. You tell me what you think. I have to see if there's anything else I wanted to cover here. What's your analysis? What do you think about that op-ed? Do you think it ties to Johnny Depp? Do you think he's the cause of the damage? Do you think a privilege, she's going to be able to survive on that, the privilege to the defamation? It's a public concern privilege. Do you think she's going to be able, or he will be able to convince 7 jurors to get a unanimous verdict? So, that's it. That's my analysis. So please do leave a comment, leave your analysis, because I want to hear what you have to say. That's why I created this channel. Not only for me to provide you with my analysis, but also to get your take on these things. So please do a comment. Please do leave a comment. Hit the like button. Share these videos. Do subscribe. Please do support my work and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.